session, we definitely would like to have some time for Q&A and chat. Please do post it, your questions on the Q&A, and we'll be very happy to have an interaction at the end. And the session is being recorded. It will be available on the events page at the end of the session. So welcome everybody, and we wanted to give a global perspective also of what's happening at the international level within the WSIS process in the WSIS forum. So our colleagues will be talking about it later. However, first I would like to start with Mr. Ayman El-Sherbini. He's the Chief of ICT Policies at ESQA, the organizer and the host of this important event. So Ayman, hello. It's good evening in the place where I am, but I guess it's good afternoon in Beirut. So good afternoon, Ayman. So how is ESQA, a regional commission, basically implementing the WSIS action lines in the region to accelerate the achievement of SDGs? And what are your plans for WSIS Forum 2022? And you were also the vice chair for just this year. So what are your plans and your contributions to the WSIS process? Over to you, Ayman.
Thank you very much, Gitanjali. It's been always and will always be a pleasure working with you and with the WSIS community. Most of us are WSIS community natives, so we are not migrants. We have been there while she got the birth in the 2003-2005 phases. And during that period, we were instrumental during our prep comms for the Tunis phase. And we did like 6 conferences in 2003, 4, 5. And then we picked up immediately after Tunis agenda all the tracks, whether the tracks related to WSIS action lines, which we'll speak about in this session, with our role as one of the facilitators at the regional level, as inscribed in Tunis agenda, of course, with ITU and UNESCO, as well as UNDESA, UNCTAD, and UNDP, inscribed roles as well in the global level. We picked up our role on that, and I'll tell you more about it. At the same time, we picked up the 1/3 of Tunis agenda related to internet governance. We consider it also a daughter or a son for the process. And we worked on both tracks since early 2005, even before the Tunis agenda on governance, and then from 2006 till today. It's 15 years now, isn't it? Now we're moving to the 16th year, and so on and so forth. First of all, we are still very much of strong believers of that summit, that important summit. And during that journey of 16 years, we did not stop at just doing the follow-up yearly, which we did actually on the status of the region. We used to develop national profiles every 2 years, regional profile also every 2 years, plus follow-up WSIS +4. We did also follow-up WSIS +9. And we also contribute to the WSIS +10 consultations by then. And then by 2015, when the rebirth, with the new, by then, 2030 agenda, we took a leap of faith and we started working on your inspiring ITU metrics on action lines with SDGs. These 200 kind of intersection points were very inspiring, and upon which we tried to at least make our contribution, simplifying them to 5, let us say, holistic clusters on state, society, economy, culture, and media, these kind of things, which we explained yesterday in our Setting the Scene video. But definitely it is with that kind of close, let us say, kinship between us and in the regional commissions and the WSIS custodianship in ITU and the other partners. So what we did actually is we reinvented our type of process. Since 2017, we are following up on the action lines in lieu and in conjunction with the SDGs through our 5 clusters approach. We did the WSIS and 2030 high-level forum, first year, 17, second year, 19. And the third year, now we combined it with the Arab IGF 6 in this notion of digital cooperation and development. And we will continue, as you said, what are our plans for next year? We'll continue doing this Arab WSIS also next year. We'll do Arab IGF next year. And we hopefully together we are again in the next iteration of this version. As on the research side, we moved also from doing national profiles into doing national digital development reviews. And we do it every 2 years. But we instigated it more with very, very candid dialogue with countries to become their ownership. It becomes the let us say the VNRs, the voluntary national reviews that is there for the ECOSOC community of sustainable development. We did this voluntary national digital development reviews at the digital side of the story. So in fact, everyone was interested because it connected all the dots at the national level. So now actually the 11 action lines are more into action. The 11 action lines are more into synchrony with the SDGs, and it is more periodic. Countries see a great benefit in basing it, using it as a base for national digital agendas. But this is only at the national level. When we go to the regional, we also talked with the Arab states, talked with the Ministerial Council of Arab States of ICT, and now we are working on the same kind of intersections between WSIS action lines and the SDGs to build our Arab digital agenda based on that framework. So that would take me to the last point of my intervention. We are not just not only following up through conferences, but through knowledge products, through policy instruments to really make a change. And that's why we are very much interested in the role of UNGIS. And thanks to all the partners for the dialogue we are having. And we had 2 or 3 days ago that we will bring later on to the WSIS in next year, WSIS 2022. We see a great value on the all one UN coming together for all one digital development for the globe and for the region. And we are very much real candid advocates of WSIS plus 20 and beyond, inshallah. And I'll give you the floor back. Thank you.
Thank you, Ayman, inshallah. And we have, shown together that WSIS is a great example of one UN family and digital cooperation. So we must definitely continue to strengthen these partnerships. So thank you very much. I'd like to now move on to my own colleague, Kareem, who is a program coordinator in the Arab office in ITU. We would definitely like to hear from you, Kareem. What is the status of digital development in the Arab region, and what are the key challenges that the Arab region is facing at present to achieve the WSIS outcomes and their alignment with the SDGs? Of course, we have our regional office is instrumental in helping us implement the action lines at the regional level as well. So Kareem, please tell us more. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Gitanjali, and for the kind invitation, and pleasure to be with you today in this important session. I also want to thank the colleagues in ESQA for the excellent organization of this important event, and we really appreciate our partnership either in this event or at large in the region, and hopefully we engage even closer in the coming years. So to answer your questions regarding the states of digital development in the Arab region, the ITU recently produced a report, its annual report on facts and figures 2021, which highlights mainly the latest ICT statistics globally and with some regional analysis. And in the report, there's some good news regarding the level of individuals using the internet, people online in the Arab region, which is by 2021, it reached 66%. Now, in comparing this to last year's figures, which is 54%, so you can see there's a clear increase in that. We're also above the global average, which is 63%. Now, the bad news is that there's still digital divides in the region, meaning that Gulf countries are obviously much more connected than the middle income and these developing countries. But there's also a gender digital divide. So in the Arab region, 68% of the males are connected online, whereas 56% of females are connected online. Also, young people are more connected. 73% of the young people are connected online in comparison to 60% of the rest of the population. Perhaps the biggest digital divide is between urban and rural areas. So 76% of urban areas are connected online, whereas 42% of rural areas are connected online. So clearly, the biggest challenge in the region is bridging those digital divides. Now, what we can say is that since the beginning of COVID, countries in the region and globally have been paying special attention to digital transformation and connecting people online. Many countries in the region have launched initiatives in this domain, matched by whole of government approaches, trying to reach whole of society approaches for digital transformation. And so what I would suggest is that, or what ITU is focusing on regionally, is how can we match those initiatives with the one UN approach. We've been collaborating closely with UN partners on the national level through UN country teams and many countries across the region. Last of which, yesterday I was engaged in discussion with the UN Resident Coordinator in Algeria, lining up to collaborate on a workshop on digital transformation beginning of next year, and trying to pool a whole of one UN approach to collaborate on this. In addition, we're working closely with UN country teams in Egypt, in Mauritania, and many other countries across the region. Also, we're trying to collaborate regionally with our colleagues in UNESCO, UNDP, and others, definitely ESCO as well, to see if we can also match those national one UN approaches with regional approaches as well. So hopefully, on the 20th, next week, we are organizing a session as part of this event on digital transformation, where we will talk more about this. So that's it from my end. So mainly we need to group our efforts to try to bridge those digital divides. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kareem, and also for bringing those important statistics, and sharing them with us, and this is the reason why we have representatives of youth, gender, older persons who are going to talk about the importance of digital inclusion in the overall process. Thank you very much, Kareem. I would now like to move on to UNCTAD. Scarlett, our focal point, is with us. She's an economics affairs officer on the e-commerce and digital economy branch. So Scarlett, we've heard from many countries that e-business and e-commerce, our WSIS action line C7 is going to play a very important role in building back better, especially after this COVID scenario, more so for women, youth, older persons, for digital inclusion. So as the co-facilitator of the action line on e-business, how can the Arab region benefit from the implementation of this action line on e-business? And in the context of the WSIS Forum 2022, the theme, ICTs for well-being, inclusion, and resilience, how can e-business support these? Over to you, Scarlett.
Thank you very much, Gitanjali. First of all, I would just like to recognize the other two co-facilitators of this action line, which are the International Trade Center, ITC, and the Universal Postal Union, UPU. Now, you might think that we are strange bedfellows in terms of co-facilitating e-business, but we have worked very well together, and we are currently all part of e-Trade for All initiative, which hinges exactly on improving the inclusion of digital trade and e-business. I would also like to say something about the term e-business for this action line. E-business was the going wording that we used back when WSIS took place. And since then, the landscape of digital economy, digital trade, e-commerce has evolved significantly, as we all know. And we are looking at so much more than the use of information and communication technologies by businesses. We are also looking at things like the flow of data across borders and how developing countries can leverage that flow of data and get value from it. How can countries better participate in digital trade in general? So just to let you know that ITC, UPU, and UNCTAD are looking at a lot more than mere e-business in terms of implementing WSIS. Now, how can the e-business action line and by implication, e-commerce, digital economy, digital trade, benefit the Arab region, especially in these post-pandemic times, or I would say current pandemic times, because we are just starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Now, as you know, these 2 years have not only boosted a lot of or forced basically the digitalization of a lot of our economic activities, because in lockdown, that was often the best way to keep things going. But at the same time, it has highlighted a lot of the digital divide. Those that were able to connect and that had the best infrastructure and that had the best systems in place were those that truly were able to benefit from this enforced and increased digitalization. So what we are going to be doing now is to try and correct that path and that trend that we have embarked on. The E-Trade for All partners looked at the effects of the pandemic in digital trade and published a very insightful document which looked at different regions, and I believe ESCWA contributed also its views on the region and how COVID-19 has impacted the digital economy and e-commerce. We believe that there needs to be acceleration in upping the skill levels in developing countries, including in the Arab region, of course, so that people are able to truly benefit from getting online. And this is aside from the infrastructure. If you have the infrastructure, but you don't know how to use it, then it doesn't help much. But also we are calling for international community effort to support developing countries that want to up their skill levels in terms of digitalization and improve their e-commerce environment. Especially donor countries that might pay attention to least developed countries and African countries, which were those that were truly left behind by the pandemic. We are inviting, as I'm speaking now on behalf of the e-business co-facilitators, who are also, as I mentioned, members of the E-Trade for All action line initiative. We are inviting Arab countries, and not only the governments, but also other organizations that are active in the region, to reach out and see if they can benefit from the E-Trade for All offer. All of the partners, I think we are up to 23 organizations that are partners of this E-Trade for All initiative, have a number of technical assistance projects, programs, knowledge resources that are all available under our platform, and I will share the link to that in the chat page. And finally, in terms of the WSIS Forum 2022 theme of well-being, inclusion, and resilience, the digital economy is not only leaving behind developing countries in general, it's within countries that there is also a divide. And we have an E-Trade for Women initiative that is trying to up the visibility of women in the e-commerce landscape. And I will also share a link to the E-Trade for Women initiative there. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Scarlett. And, you are also aware that the WSIS special initiatives on gender led to the creation of the gender repository. So we will be very happy to see some sort of a partnership with the E-Trade, the gender, the one you mentioned, and the repository. We are nominating gender trendsetters at present. And maybe if Minerva and Joe will allow, I can go directly to mailing, because she is with us from 3:30 a.m. in the morning. So I'll bring you in right now. Thank you very much for joining us. We know that it is really early for you, but it's your passion that brings, time zone doesn't matter at all to you because of your passion. So thank you so much for joining us today. We just want to ask you a very simple question. Being an innovator, a role model for all of us worldwide, why is gender mainstreaming important in developing, ICTs, especially, as you say, in design and in innovation? And how can we prioritize? This is a question all of us ask, family and home, when developing ICTs for well-being, inclusion, and resilience. Over to you, Malin.
Thank you, Gitanjali, and especially thank you for your leadership in this important area of gender mainstreaming. I've shared in the chat the gender mainstreaming URL, and I hope that you will, in fact, nominate the trendsetters for gender mainstreaming in your country. At the beginning of this session, it was highlighted the gender gap, that while 68% of men are connected, only 56% of women. I think we have to address this because it is women who understand how digital can be applied in the home. Children, the elderly, the people who are differently abled, like the blind and the deaf, women understand the difficulties that they face because the digital world was not designed for folks like who are different. I'm speaking here from California, and yes, it is very early, but I feel it's important to join you to say we have a difficulty here in Silicon Valley, that many of the decisions, many of the startups, many of the funders are men. And therefore, the technology that has been so exciting, that has really come to the fore with the COVID pandemic, allowing people to work from home and to continue life, has been largely decided by men. The moment is now for people all over the world, especially women, to make sure that the new innovations incorporate the home, the family, our neighborhoods. We need to test technology in community living learning labs. And women in ICT need to be involved in designing how that happens so that we can get the feedback we need to make sure it's adapted so that everyone can participate, not just the people who speak English, not just the people who are the traditional. I am one of the pioneers as a woman of the largest software category today, CRM, customer relationship management. I was one of two people, a man and a woman, who helped to invent it. And it became the largest category because a woman was involved in it, because it was applicable, because my concern about human relationships was designed in. Women are needed in the design of software and digital innovations. And so I encourage all women to step up. It's not easy being a pioneer, but it's worth it because of what it means to families and friends around the world, here and in the future. Back to you, Gitanjali.
Thank you very much, Malin, and for those important messages. And we just see that how our campaign, our movement, it's actually becoming a movement, because we are getting calls from women all over the world telling us that they would do, courses on app development for young girls. They would mentor young girls. They would sponsor young girls. So it's really, really a great movement that, of course, we need men to join also with us. So we do encourage all of you to nominate men and women as WSIS gender trendsetters for the upcoming years to continue our campaign. Thank you very much, Milin, for your leadership. And I would now like to move on to another very important partner of the WSIS process, UNESCO. I have Joe, my colleague, here with us. And Joe, what are your plans for WSIS Forum 2022? We are already working on the ICTs and indigenous languages activities in alignment with the decade of indigenous languages. We are planning a hackathon. Please tell us more about what are our plans so that the region can participate actively in everything that we are doing. Over to you, Joe.
Yes, hello, and thank you so much to the ESQUA organizers in Beirut and the previous substantive and highly informative speakers and the ones that will follow. Thank you to Gitanjali, who actually is among the best interagency coordinators of the UN system in my personal view. And this is always good. It's a good reason enough to notice and engage around what the many interesting things that are happening on the WSIS forum. I hope everyone joining this call as well will be inspired to contribute to organize your own WSIS forum sessions to support our global knowledge society that is the WSIS community. In Lebanon, the Domari language is severely endangered with fewer than 300,000 native speakers. And this is according to the current UNESCO World Atlas of Languages. In fact, throughout the Western Asian region, the ESQUA region, if you will, we know there are languages at risk of extinction, from Iran with 25 endangered languages to Indonesia with 143 languages at risk, and on and on. I start with this point because the 2022 WSIS Forum, co-organized by ITU, UNESCO, UNDP, UNCTAD, will be devoting a special prize and a global hackathon to the theme of indigenous languages. And at UNESCO, among my colleagues, we believe this WSIS thematic can leave a lasting mark and impact beyond 2022, because 2022 is year one of the 2022 International Decade of Indigenous Languages. In February next year, UNESCO will launch the revised World Atlas of Languages, which identifies 8,324 languages that are spoken or signed in the world. Just amazing. But today, only several hundred languages are in use on the internet. You may know this. And this is despite as many as 4,000 languages having adopted or having a developed writing system by some estimates. So where are we compared to these thousands of local and indigenous languages that are all around us? The social media company Facebook reports supporting up to 111 languages, which is perhaps the most among social media platforms. And Google Translate covers around 109 languages, but with 120 more under development as of April this year. And then Wikipedia has published articles in around 310 languages, which is impressive. But the growth constraint is that all new Wikipedia entries require citation of secondhand published resources and so forth, right? Which amounts to a kind of a catch-22 for further language introduction, it appears. UNESCO Secretariat believes it is possible, including through the WSIS process and its multi-stakeholder approach, to challenge the international community to bring at least 1,000 languages online by the close of the decade. And in particular, we need to bring into the WSIS umbrella research organizations, which work closely with language communities, and with the private sector. For WSIS 2022, we are planning, and this depends on you as well, to create the WSIS Special Prize and a hackathon around ICTs to support Indigenous languages. But more broadly, working with Gitanjali, we want to bring communities together with supportive member states to better address Indigenous languages within the framework of the 2022 WSIS Forum, and then to leave an impact in the years beyond. The second reason why the upcoming WSIS Forum is important for UNESCO Secretariat is that while the end of the SDGs in 2030 may seem distant, the review process, WSIS plus 20, SDG plus 10, Internet Governance Forum review, they all dovetail around 2025. And so a national, regional, global, multi-stakeholder process of inclusive consultation actually ought to begin as soon as possible, right? In order to be as multi-stakeholder and as inclusive as we ought to be. And because of the timing of our review, and because everything related to development, from humanitarian response to education to health and so on, without exception, now depends upon a digital component and is impacted by digital transformation, it seems reasonable to imagine that our WSIS process, as part of a multi-stakeholder process, should also help inform and have a meaningful influence on the next iteration of development goals beyond 2030. So to conclude, these will be two of our priority areas as we look ahead to the 2022 WSIS Forum, namely supporting Indigenous languages through WSIS through to the coming decade, and second, to support an inclusive and multi-stakeholder WSIS plus 20 review process from as early as possible. And this is really the best part of working with these wonderful WSIS colleagues around us. And we invite everyone listening to join that circle. Thank you very much for your attention today.
Thank you very much, Joe, also for those important activities you mentioned around Indigenous languages. They are covered under the WSIS Action Line on Cultural Diversity, Action Line C8, that UNESCO leads within the WSIS process. We will be working with you to ensure that this important decade of Indigenous languages, achieves all its goals and objectives. So thank you for bringing this important topic to the community, Joe, and we look forward to working with you on this. Thank you. I'll now move on to Minerva from UNDP, who's been, with us hand in hand, identifying the opportunities, challenges for the growth of the WSIS action lines, and for the achievement of the SDGs. Minerva, your UNDP has played a very important role within the UN process, the WSIS process. And what are some of the priorities emerging, particularly in the context of the COVID pandemic and the SDGs? And what are your expectations when it comes to WSIS cooperation as a response to, the United Nations SDGs call for greater digital cooperation? Over to you, Minerva.
Thank you so much, Gitanjali, and good morning, colleagues. Greetings from UNDP in New York. And let me start off, in fact, in congratulating our hosts and the team of AMEN and in the region. This is, in fact, a great progress in what we tried to do in WSIS, WSIS. And in fact, if I may start with the last point or question that Gitanjali raised, which is the steps forward and what we expect in the coming years, especially for WSIS, in response to COVID and for SDG acceleration towards 2030. UNGIS, let me start there, had been a model for cooperation, as AMEN, in fact, underlined in our meeting in preparation for this forum in the region. It is an interagency coordination mechanism, and we are served really a great deal by Gitanjali and the team in ITU. And it has been a privilege to work closely with the other agencies, 32 of us, including the World Bank and OECD, and the current chair, UNESCO, and always with UNCTAD and the regional commissions as well. And this has been a a very instructive experience for me personally, and I think for all agencies involved. When we started, I think right after the WSIS, the summit in 2005, there was a great deal of effort given to advocacy. At that time, we were trying to reach the MDGs, if you will recall. There was a lot of resistance, or maybe not a great deal of understanding yet on the role of ICTs. And we devoted a lot of effort in advocating for the role of ICTs. Now, fast forward, the pandemic happened, MDGs to SDGs, there's now greater understanding of the role of ICTs. And in fact, I think the challenge has shifted from advocacy to making sure that we are all interlinked or coordinated, especially as we support countries in recovering from the pandemic and what we call as a just transition from what used to be, with a lot of inequalities and regression in our SDG goals and targets. Poverty, as you know, has increased a great deal since the pandemic. And here I would like to touch on a little bit on the regressions, especially on well-being, resilience, and inclusion. So a lot of our colleagues would connect the specific themes of work in specific SDG goals and targets: health and well-being, SDG 3, inclusion on SDG and equality, including SDG 16, on institutions and peace, and access to information is in that goal. Resilience, a lot of people would connect that to the resilience of our infrastructure and resilience of our cities, which were the hardest hit, in fact, during the pandemic. They were the epicenters of the pandemic in countries, SDG 11. But we do realize that all SDGs are interlinked, interconnected, and it requires really efforts from all of us. And this is one example of how stakeholders are really needed for the efforts in this forum. We are represented by a lot, and we will hear more from others, because there is a great need to not just widen or increase efforts on digital, but really to invest in efforts that could truly move the needle, and in a very sustained and a long-term way. So we are inspired to see that there are a lot more people now doing digital efforts, but what we're seeing is really a need for more coordinated work from the global to the local and across. And this is where we are seeing this regional effort to be very, very helpful in this regard. The regional engagement and the linkages that our regional partners have to the local level is going to be really critical in building back better, or building forward better, as we call it in UNDP. We are present in about 175 countries and territories. And what we're seeing is that there is a great need for support across the board. UNDP was the technical lead for the socioeconomic response of the UN. And I would like to invite colleagues here to go look into the socioeconomic response plans of countries. You will see a great deal of digital aspects there. Countries now, as I said, realize the role of ICTs. And there is great need for supporting the building of the capacities at the local level up to the national. So it's not just projects that have ICTs or digital aspects to them, but really try to build the foundations of an ecosystem that can propel progress from the local to the national to the global in a sustained way. So we need more capacity building efforts, especially on those themes that we try to focus attention to in WSIS this year, which is on well-being, inclusion, and resilience. Resilience itself is going to be a major challenge, noting how we have regressed, as I said, on the progress on the SDGs that we have been proud of in the past years, but now we need to redouble efforts. So there's greater understanding now too of what resilience really means. So from the human to the institutional level, And before this discussion, in fact, we were at offline and we were discussing with colleagues, and maybe Gitanjali, this is your segue to the upcoming speakers, including our colleagues who are working on aging. The resilience is not just on infrastructure. We need that. We need more digital infrastructure to address the digital divide, but we also need more efforts to address the divide, not just in infrastructure sense, not just in connectivity sense. And this is where the policies really matter, investments going into where it really matters. And maybe I should start there, just with the invitation that UNDP has a digital strategy, and it is ready to work closely with you, also at the region, at the local level, and at the global level, certainly. So from there, I would just conclude that from advocacy, I think the challenge for WSIS and Angus now is to make sure that there is coherence in our efforts. And the cooperation that we have developed through the years and established through the years are more meaningful and expansive and inclusive. And here I could not stress enough the need for more hands on deck, and starting with all colleagues around the table here. Over to you, Gitanjali. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minerva. And you rightly highlighted the importance of connecting the dots at the regional level, international level, and national level. Basically, we have to all work together to make sure that we have that resilience to build back better and for the well-being of communities all over the world. Thank you, and we'll be working closely on all of that. I would now, I've been saving the best for the last. It's the communities of youth and ICTs and older persons. Mr. Michael Hoden, the CEO of the Global Coalition on Aging, who has been advocating the role of ICTs in older persons. Michael, we've learned a lot from you, the role of ICTs in, cognitive decline, Alzheimer's, transportation, frailty, so many new things you have introduced to the community of WSIS. And my question to you would be that, as the UN WHO Decade of Healthy Aging seeks to make progress on SDGs for older adults, what role can digital solutions play in enabling the decade? And what are the opportunities for collaboration between the private sector and the public and the all stakeholders, in fact, And you have been instrumental also in initiating the WSIS Healthy Aging Innovation Prize. We had the inaugural version this year. We are continuing in 2022. And we have also set up a WSIS multi-stakeholder alliance on ICTs and older persons. And the enthusiasm of people is really, really amazing. They have nominated themselves as co-chairs, vice chairs on cybersecurity, capacity building and education. And it's really amazing, the momentum that we have generated amongst all this topic. So Michael, over to you. And again, it's also always very early for you, but your enthusiasm always gets you to, the WSIS events. So over to you, Michael. And thank you.
Thank you, Gitanjali. And we're delighted on behalf of the Global Coalition on Aging to be a partner with WSIS. And it may be a little bit earlier for us here. I'm based in New York, Minerva, probably just down the street from where you are. I'm on 44th off of 3rd, and it's just right around the corner. So maybe we can have a coffee together. And I also noticed that among others, Mei Lin, you're out there in California. So, we appreciate it. And I think we're all committed to this. I know we want to spend a little bit of time for questions. So let me try to just highlight some points here. Firstly, to emphasize Gitanjali's point that in January of 2021, the global community, all of us launched the Decade of Healthy Aging. It was approved by the World Health Organization, the entire assembly, 194 countries. I think it's 2 years ago. And then even more interestingly, approved in a proclamation from the UN itself. So it's, as we've all been alluding to this, the Decade of Healthy Aging now joins the Sustainable Development Goals. And why is this so? Well, it's because the topic of this mega trend of aging is one of the most significant of any that we identify, but in many ways perhaps less recognized. By 2050, there will be 2 billion of us on the planet over 60. Even more profoundly, as every society modernizes, including in the Arab world, as you will know, there become more old than young. The birth rates begin to get lower. Gitanjali, where you're sitting there in Delhi in India, just over the last decade and a half, the birth rates went from roughly 7 or 8 children per mother per family to about 2. So as every society modernizes, and from the Global Coalition on Aging point of view, we bring the business community, the private sector into this topic, and we've been delighted to be partnering with WSIS. This will be our 3rd year in 2022. As you said, Gitanjali, we have the Healthy Aging Innovation Prize. We welcome submissions. We had multiple, I think over 100 submissions last year. We expect to have in the hundreds this year. We had a hackathon last year where we had over 1,000 participating, which generated a number of ideas. And as you said, Gitanjali, and as many of you will know, the innovation is around fintech, it's around digital health, it's around enabling for innovations in Alzheimer's and ICTs, frailty, bone health and ICTs, addressing adult vaccination, which of course with COVID-19 we know is even more important. So we're delighted to be partners and looking forward to 2022. We will have our Healthy Aging Innovation Prize again. We will have our panels and hopefully a number of great participants from Philips, as an example, which in the context of aging, changed their core business strategy from basically a light bulbs and electronics company to a connected care company. Lynn, you will appreciate that. They apply the CRM applications. Uber Health is a member of the Global Coalition on Aging, applying their ideas in transportation and technology to a healthier aging. Pfizer, Novartis, Bank of America. And one of the most interesting developments, and then I'll stop here, which also brings us to this relationship where WSIS has been so important, ICTs in older persons. One of our members, Home Instead, which is the global leader in caregiving, elder caregiving. They're based out of Omaha, Nebraska, but have franchises in many countries around the world, was bought this year by a Silicon Valley technology company called Honor. And they will put high touch together with high tech. And we will see how we can scale through that and the use of ICTs, the use of digital, the use of technology, scale that even more for elder caregiving, which is one of the greatest needs we have as the population ages. So we're delighted to be part of this. And one of the major lessons out of all the work, Gitanjali, as you and WSIS and ITU know, is co-design. We've heard today about co-design on the gender side, co-design in order to achieve, Joe, the issues around language, but co-design with respect to whether it's aging or youth is so critical. And if we're going to design technologies and ICTs that are both integrated for and applications with older persons, we have to then make sure we're designing with the older persons themselves. So we don't just build it over here and then give it over there. So we're delighted to be part of it. We invite everyone to be part of this Healthy Aging Innovation Prize and the track on older persons this year. Gitanjali, it's going to even be a more exciting year. And hopefully in 23, we can all come back in person again. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Michael, for this great partnership. And, one thing we both forgot to mention is that we are also exploring in 2022 how we can have incubators for these, new ideas that have come from the hackathon. So any of you there listening to us, if you would like to, if you have some ideas, just let us know. We'll be very happy to implement this. Thank you, Michael. And, you rightly said, I'm back in India after 2 years, and the whole way of functioning has completely changed. Everybody is so seamlessly ordering things online. It's all gone virtual, right from our grandparents to parents who had the fear of technology. It's now like a complete turn, so dependent on technology. So now is the time for us to actually provide them with that comfort, that technology is there to help, and we will provide the service which we should be doing. So thank you very much, Michael. And we brought in Lara Rudar, who is our WSIS youth campaigner who represents the region. And it will be very apt that Lara comes in after Mike, because what we are also trying to do during our WSIS special initiatives is to explore how our activities can be across generations, intergenerational, so that the youth and the older persons can work together, for these different activities. Lara, you have set very ambitious goals for 2022. Lara represents the environmental issues within the WSIS campaigners. So please share with us, Lara, how are the youth using ICTs to engage with the environmental issues, and what role do you see that young people can play in using ICTs to combat climate change? Over to you, Lara.
Thank you. Well, hello everyone. It's a pleasure to be here and join you in this discussion. I'm Lara, I'm 18 years old, and just like many youth around the world, I'm involved in various initiatives that focus on advancing the progress of SDGs. So like as it was mentioned, I predominantly work in the environmental field, and I focus on climate education and youth mobilization. And honestly, ICTs have been a really important part in increasing public awareness and action on different environmental issues. So I think that is one of the most important tools that environmental advocates have. And currently I'm a UAE ambassador for nature. So this past year, I've been part of a program called Connect with Nature in the United Arab Emirates. And it's a project run by Emirates Nature WWF. So essentially it's a digital platform created by youth for youth, and we have a website and an app, and then students can kind of sign up and take part in different activities organized by us, and then afterwards gain digital badges and certificates as an incentive to learn more and more about the biodiversity of the UAE and then the different environmental issues both in this country and then around the world. And yeah, I mean, there are so many youth that I really want to engage with SDG goals like climate action, sustainable consumption, life on land. And technology really makes it easier for them to do so. So in the past, we've been able to use this platform to engage with different goals and harness the power of citizen science to gather data and research about the biodiversity in the mangroves or different amounts of plastic pollution on beaches. And it's obviously with the pandemic, we had to swiftly adapt to the virtual environment. But we kind of saw that there was much more youth engaged virtually because it really made it more accessible to youth because, we didn't have to use the transport because we obviously rely on our parents or public transport to get to different places. And so virtually it was more about digital workshops and discussions, and we had youth majlis programs, which was aimed at bridging the gap between policymakers and between youth. So these webinars really offered the chance to invite special guests like director generals, UAE ministers, people who youth don't talk to. And then they were able to present their plans for green recovery and then also listen to what youth have to say. So it's really bridging this gap between different stakeholders. And it's really a pattern that I've seen emerge this year. And I really believe that collaboration, that technology has increased collaboration between different stakeholder groups, like policymakers, the private sector, grassroots organizations, and it has really amplified youth voices. It really helps people feel less alone in this fight for climate action. So youth kind of see it as a space to help others and share their own personal experiences and advice. And it's really, because climate change is a really enormous issue, people feel powerless to actually do anything. But technology offers this network to join forces and this ability to work together in real time from all parts of the world to implement solutions. And that is the power to actually create this collaboration between people. I just want to give an example from the youth climate strikes that have been happening. All of those strikes have been actually organized online. Some of the youth organizers have never actually met each other before. It's really something incredible that is being done. And previously in events such as the Youth for Climate Driving Ambition event in Milan, where I was the delegate of Turkey, we really used technology along with the UNFCCC, UNEP, and UNICEF to prepare for the conference, to connect together and to discuss solutions, to discuss ideas, and then draft all of this and put it together at the conference in Italy ahead of the pre-COP26 summits. And even during the conference, during the pre-COP summit, many delegates weren't actually able to fly to Italy due to various reasons, but technology allowed them to actually join us virtually. So it really shows that technology can actually make things more accessible and inclusive. And obviously nothing can replace the personal connection you have when you meet someone in person. But even after the conference, ICTs helped everyone stay connected and share what happened at this close conference with everyone. So really that is how youth are using ICTs. And I really believe that ICTs play an enormous role in combating the climate crisis.
Thank you so much, Lara, and thank you for all your efforts, in ensuring that, the WSIS youth campaigners are working hand in hand to developing a strategy for next year, and it's amazing to see the enthusiasm. We would like to reassure you that the voice of the youth is extremely important in the UN process, in the UN system, and it is very important for us to hear from you and to include you in all the work that we are doing. So thank you so much, Lara, and to all the other WSIS youth coordinators and campaigners who are working with us. Thanks, Lara. I do not see any questions out here on the Q&A. So I believe the audience does not have any question. We had a great session here. If any of you would like to have some few last words, because we do have some time and we don't have any questions. So if you could raise your hands, or we could close the session. Okay, I do not see any raised hands. So thank you very much. Thank you to our colleagues from UNESCO, Ayman, Tala, everyone for helping us organize this session. Our regional office colleagues, Kareem and Adil, and all of you are very, very enthusiastic WSIS partners, collaborators. We look forward to continuing our initiatives and actions with you. So bye-bye, and thank you so much.
Thanks to you and all panelists.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And the audience, Shukran, thank you for joining us. Of course. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Under the slogan of shaping our digital future, the Arab International Digital Cooperation and Development Forum, the CDF, will bring together representatives and experts from Arab governments, the business sector, civil society, the technical community, academia, and international organizations. DCDF will be held virtually from 13 to 23 December 2021 by ESCO, LAS, ITU, UNCTAD, and UNDESA. Through almost 30 sessions over 8 days, you can participate in policy debate on priority issues in the fields of internet policies and digital development globally and in the Arab region. DCDF aims to align the Arab tracks of the World Summit on the Information Society and the Internet Governance Forum to maximize opportunities for digital cooperation. Register now to join us in this journey from 13 to 23 December. Together, let's shape our digital future.